Bore da pawb, welcome. This is the Finance and Performance Committee of Bannau Brycheiniog National Park. Welcome to all of those of you who may be watching at home. Can I particularly welcome some new members to this committee? We have Canon Aled Edwards with us today, Councillor Handel Davis, and Councillor Scott Emanuel will also be joining this committee. Before we start, I'd really just like to thank Councillor Jeremy Davis, who is also a member of this committee still, for his sterling work chairing this committee over the past time. Jeremy, the reason I'm sat here is that under our scheme of delegation, the Chair of Finance Performance is now automatically the Chair of the Deputy Chair of the Authority. So again, if I can just thank Jeremy Davis, Councillor Jeremy Davis, for his sterling work, and I will try and live up to his endeavours and what he's managed to do with this committee. Also, I'd like to welcome to this committee Julian Steadman, who's a member of this authority. Julian, would you like to just say a few words about your role in Standards Committee and hence your presence here today?
Thanks very much, Chair, and good morning to members and officers in attendance here. Yes, just to say that I'm not a member of this committee, and I will not be participating in any of the business. In fact, I have my mute on and probably my video on for the extension of the meeting, but I will be in attendance in the sense of being aware of what happens. My role this morning, as from the Standards Committee, is to observe the committee, in particular to observe the conduct and performance of the committee. So I'm sorry, Liz, I'm going to put you under the spot, as it were, in your first meeting, but there we are.
Perfectly all right.
We'll be looking at the way that the chair responds to committee members and the officers, and so I'm sure you'll all be on best behaviour this morning. So after I've said that, I shall say a cheerio, because you won't see any more of me. Thank you.
Very helpful. Okay, apologies for absence. We've received apologies from Councillor Jeremy Davis. I think that's correct, Gemma? Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is the election of a Deputy Chair of this committee, Deputy Chair of Finance and Performance Committee. This is by self-nomination. So can I ask for any self-nominations from amongst the members? I see no hands. We are a number of members short, absent for this meeting. So if there is no interest in this at the moment, would the most appropriate thing be to roll this forward to the next meeting? Is that appropriate, Gemma? Is that
Chair, if you're happy to propose, I'm happy to second.
Right. Okay. I propose.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So I propose that we take this forward to the next meeting of this committee, where hopefully perhaps we'll have a few more members present. So I propose that. Can I look for a seconder? Thank you, Gareth. Thank you very much. Okay, is that all right?
Yeah.
Can we have a show of hands, please? Alex, yeah. Yes. Okay, thank you very much. Good. Okay. So correspondence. Catherine, do you want to say anything? I understand just under correspondence to highlight something.
Yeah, Borodar members, yes, one piece of correspondence received by the authority is relevant to the committee. So there's been a financial sustainability audit completed by Audit Wales. That's going to be considered first by the Audit and Risk Committee on the 2nd of October, but the recommendations are obviously really relevant to this committee, including the need for tight ongoing monitoring by members of the financial sustainability of the organisation, and obviously providing that assurance that this is being sort of gripped and looked at. So just to flag to members that correspondence, and that will have a relevance for our business moving forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Members, any comments on that? Excellent. I've had no declarations of interest brought to my attention. and there are no requests for public speaking at this time. But we do, for those of you who might be watching this, we do welcome public speaking at our meetings. So we'd be pleased to hear from you about that. Moving on, the minutes of a Finance and Performance Committee held on the 9th of June 2025. There is one slight amendment, a minor amendment, because there are two agenda item 8s listed in the minutes. So I just make that. Councillor Gareth.
Yes, Chair. Membership is changed somewhat, but obviously subject to those minor amendments, I would like to propose we accept the minutes.
Okay. Can I ask for a seconder? I believe that anybody can second these. Thank you, Aled. And do I need a show of hands or a vote for that? Just a show of hands, please. Okay, that's fine, I think. Thank you very much. That's good. Our next item, item number 7, is the action log. This is a standing item on our agenda, and it's really good to keep ahead of progress and just to monitor progress as we go forward. Gemma, is there anything that you want to say on this?
Thank you, Chair. No, the one additional item that arose from our last meeting in June has now been addressed when members received a briefing with the head of natural capital in August. So up to date with all action. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Gareth, your hand's up. Is that a historic hand?
Old hand, I'm afraid.
Okay. I'll just mention that I thought that briefing was extremely useful and very interesting that we had on natural capital. Yeah. So moving on, agenda item 8, we have a budget monitoring report, Q1, 2025-26. Richard, you're going to take us through that, and I believe we're also going to talk to agenda item 9 as well, the draft statement of accounts as well through that. So can I hand over to you, please, to take us through those papers, please?
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, Pope. If I'll just share my screen, if that's okay with you, I'll discuss. So hopefully you can see the budget monitoring 24-25-26 on your screen. So obviously the main priority of the Finance Department has been to focus on the end of year accounts, the 24-25 accounts, which were, I'll talk about that in a little while. So what's happened in regard specifically to budget monitoring, Heidi and myself had meetings with Gareth and his team, exploring what the budget variances are up until the end of July. It's a bit early to have any meaningful data from the budget performance thus far, so we couldn't identify anything significant, but we do know that there are a number of vacant posts which will have a bearing on the outturn for the accounts, and there's half a dozen there. The other thing I'd like to bring to your attention, which will impact the outturn for the 25-26 accounts, is the capital grant submission that we put to Welsh Government in the middle of August. If I could just perhaps share my, one second, if I just share another slide which has that on it. Bear with me 1 second. There we go. So we submitted about £1.7 million worth of grant application, capital grant application to Welsh Government. I'll just focus on some of the major items. Hopefully you can see this. So we have had an issue with regard to Keepers Pond. It's now fallen under the jurisdiction of NRW and the Reservoirs Act. So there's some significant amount of work that's required to get that up to a suitable condition. That's circa £410,000. As you know, there was a major incident that after Storm Dara in Craig Norse at the beginning, well, just over Christmas period. So there's a fair amount of work still standing on that, about £165,000. The next major item there is proposed work that we're hoping to get done, not necessarily just this financial year, but maybe into the next subsequent years. So that's the development of the National Park Visitor Centre. And the £100,000 there is for the boundary markers. Obviously, with the rebranding of the authority, there's a amount of work required to get those new boundaries markers in place. Other major items I think I'll just draw to your attention are we'd need to kind of have some livery. We're expecting new vehicles arriving in the next few months, and we need to get authority livery put on them. And I think the last significant item there, well, actually, there's a few. There's Fermier Bro, which we've actually had confirmation of the £50,000 on the Fermier Bro, so that's come through, and £75,000 on the Robuff Blail, and yeah, £30,000 for rough terrain vehicle at Craigen North, and £80,000 to develop the bird hide at Glencorse. So that's what we've submitted. As I say, the only thing that we have had confirmation on is the Fermier Bro expenditure. So obviously, if we get that 1.7 million, it will have significant bearing on the outturn for the year. So this slide kind of shows what the budget position. That's the middle column there. So we did forecast overall a deficit of £788,000. So with half a dozen vacancies and with additional Catholic grant, I expect that deficit to be significantly reduced. So, but it's a bit premature to make any firm kind of comment on that. So that's my section regarding the budget monitoring. So if there are any questions, I'll try and address them.
Any questions on that section, members, before we move forward?
Sorry. Yeah, I got a few questions, but I'll take them up at the end if that's all right, because they kind of lap over the two, and I think obviously with the draft statement of accounts, it might be helpful to hear that as well.
Okay, excellent. So Richard, take us through the draft statement of accounts.
Okay, will do. Okay, so the position with the 24-25 accounts, so they were signed by myself and sent to Audit Wales on the 27th of August, which they acknowledged the receipt of. The Audit Wales plan suggests that they will be doing the audit between sometime August and October and December. So hopefully it'll be completed in this calendar year, which will be a great benefit to all of us. It can be done this side of Christmas, and then the formal approval of the accounts along with the ISO 260 will take place in the February 26 meeting. So that's the kind of the schedule of what proposal will happen. So moving on. So I said that the accounts are a fairly voluminous piece of work. It's 76 pages, excluding the annual government statement, which has been presented to the audit committee, and that's been the draft version of that has already been approved. So instead of going into the whole detail of the accounts, I've got some summary slides which might help you understand where we're at. So this compares the two financial years, 23-24 and 24-25. The first time you could see that we've another nearly £200,000 of Welsh Government grant, which is a National Park grant, which we utilise in the year. Let's say we're very fortunate that Welsh Government do give us these top-ups, but it does cause issues regarding budgeting management. The next line there, you can see the other significant item is of income increases. It's the government grants and contributions. So that's gone from 1.5 million to 2.2. So that's where we record all the SLSP income, the access improvement grants, the shared prosperity funding, and their open place of nature kind of grant. I think the most significant increase there has been the shared prosperity income that we've had, which is about £400,000. So that explains why our income has gone up from about £7 million to 8.2. Looking at the expenditure, you can see there's an increase from 4.5 to 4.9 with regard to employee expenses. All employees had a flat increase of about £1,925 added to their salary, which, when you add national insurance and the like, that equates to about about £240,000 increase in the operating budget, irrespective of increasing numbers of employees. I think the FTEs have actually increased from about 93 on average to about 96. So there's a mixture of reasons why that's gone up from 4.5 to 4.9. Other service expenditures gone from 2.6 to 3.4. The major item there has been some Section 106 payments of about £300,000, and also the expenditure associated with the shared prosperity fund. That's why that's gone up so much. And when we compare the figures compare it against budget. So you can see, if you look at the first column, this shows the budget position. So to help balance the budget, we were expecting to utilise £560,000 worth of reserves. That means that's basically we set a deficit budget of, sorry, that seems to be moving, £560,000. Actually, so that's how we were to call upon those reserves to help balance the budget. Looking at the actual outturn, there've been a number. So the next three columns show the actual outturn and the variance against the budget. You can see that the major kind of underspend in the net cost of service is the £298,000 in the nature of climate change. Again, a number of reasons for that. Vacant posts. There's the allocation of some of the SLSP money to support the net budget, and that's reason for why overall the net cost of services are down £423,000. So the budget was 5.5, outturn of 5.1, so saving about £400,000. And as I mentioned, we've also had an increase in National Park grant allocation of £390,000 over budget, and where we're at. So there's that, and so the overall the net position regarding income was down effectively by about £400,000. So I should clarify that the reason why that's down is because of the transfer to and from reserves. So instead of calling upon £560,000 to balance the budget, we actually added to the reserves by £103,000. So that impact was overall saving, if you like, of about £660,000. That's how we were able. That's why the table seems to be balancing. So just to make sure that we have savings in the net cost of services. We didn't have to call upon the transfers from the earmarked reserves to help balance the budget. So we're overall, our reserves are actually gone up more favourably, about £103,000 better than we expected. So that's how we actually currently are showing the end of year accounts. So hopefully I've kind of explained how that table is a bit complicated, but just so you're comparing the budget, the outturn, and the actual, and the reason why there's been significant savings against the actual budget has been compensated by that saving has been reflected in the reduced impact on the authority's reserves. So moving on to the next slide, which is the capital expenditure for the year. So last year we spent 1.2 million. This year we spent £974,000, and the significant expenditure there's £500,000 on peatland work and a number of vehicles that we bought in the year. So that's where the expenditure was. The funding came from in-year grants, so that's the reason why. So we've got matched the expenditure complete with the in-year grant funding. So there's no need to call upon any of the reserves in place. Looking at the balance sheet for the end of the year, which this is my last slide, so just to explain what's going on. So you can see the first column is the balance sheet that has at the end of March 25, and the second column is the balance sheet at the end of March 24. So you can see that the long-term fixed assets have gone on from 9.6 million to just over 10 million, and that's basically in relation to the £900,000 we spent on the capital expenditure, less the impact of in-year depreciation. You can see that the inventories, that's the stock that we hold at the information centres and the like, so that's more or less remained static. £58,000 versus 56. Similarly with the short-term debtors, that's just slightly down. Cash has gone up from 5 million to just over 6 million, largely to do with the Welsh Government grant that we've received in here. The next line is that provision. You can see in 23-24 there was nil provision, and now we've got a provision of £56,000. Members may be aware that we've had an issue regarding the lessor at the Mountain Centre, and we've had there's a potential bad debt as at the end of March 25 of £56,000. We are taking actions in conjunction with Geldards to recover this debt. I have disclosed that at the moment in time it's still outstanding. But we are, I'm actually got a meeting with Geldards tomorrow to finalise the procedures regarding the recovery of that debt. So the short-term creditors has gone up from 3.7 million or 3.7 million to 4.7. Largely to do, again, it's how we treat the money that we've had from Welsh Government. So it's treated as a receipt in advance and it's held within that short-term creditors position. So the other thing I should identify at the top, but amongst the long-term assets, we've got what's called a right-of-use assets. So there's been a change of the accounting regulations, which just came into force for the 24-25 financial year, which identified right-of-use assets. This is basically to where we are using assets which are leased to us by other organisations. We're required to identify them on the balance sheet. So as at the end of March 25, we'd 81,000, and they are the two assets. That's the Foydrech depot and the HQ. So and we've worked quite closely with Audit Wales to kind of do that calculation. So hopefully it won't change between now and the final accounts. There we go. That's the accounts as I currently stand. I'm happy to take any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Richard, and thank you to your team for such a comprehensive set of papers. I personally find all the notes very useful because you explain everything that I could have asked, in such detail. Councillor Gareth.
Thank you very much. Do you want to take we'll leave the slides up actually, sorry. Yeah, just want to say thank you to Richard and the team. It's more of a comment than a actual question. It's just relating to, obviously, look at these accounts and the accounts we had beginning of the year. They look completely different. Yeah, well done everyone involved. Obviously there's a mass underspend in certain areas there to get us within budget. But the concerning part is the grants that come in late in the day. This is not sustainable going forward. It's a kind of hand-to-mouth living, and it doesn't really reflect of how we are at this point. It's down to a lot of officers' work, hard work, and dedication to get there. So grateful the funding pots coming in from Welsh Government, but obviously our sustainability to allow adaptations and change compared to other authorities. In Wales and across the UK, we're in a more dangerous position. Regarding the work you're doing here, it seems very complex and a lot of heavy weighted monitoring that goes on here. And I just want your thoughts on the complexity of our monitoring. With audit coming in now again at the end of the year, it does seem to take up a lot of time, but we have a day job to do as well. I'm just concerned that we spend all year monitoring and actually we'd like to do some doing.
Yeah,
answer that.
Thank you, Gareth. You made some very good comments there. I'll deal with the overall accounts. Obviously, there are nearly 80 odd pages of accounting and reporting, and then that's because we fall under what's called the local government accounting regulations. So we're treated the same as any unitary authority. We have to make all those disclosures. Bearing in mind that local authorities are 400, 500 million pound entities, we're still subject to the same level of scrutiny. So we have to prepare these accounts. I mean, whether we should continue to do so has been a discussion, I think, between Welsh Government and Audit Wales for some time. I'd say our budget, 7-8 million. It's quite an onerous task to prepare the accounts and do everything else. And as you say, we probably could and should be doing other more important things. Again, managing our resources, particularly under the current climate. I'm not saying we're not doing the best job we can, but it would free up an awful lot of time. I think the other thing, the point you make regarding the in-year top-ups and the impact of the budget, it's hugely challenging. And so what you're observing is that our cash balances are increasing every year, and our operating budgets are shrinking, and there's a complete contradiction there. And the reason being is that we have to work upon what our National Park grant is allocated that we're aware of. As you know, we've set a deficit budget for this year and next year, but what's transpiring is we're ending up with surpluses and indeed additional cash balances which aren't being allocated. Dare I say the best effect. So I think the current regime probably isn't helpful. I think it also, with regard to the Audit Wales financial sustainability report, it's been flagged there. I think Catherine might want to come back in on that. It's hugely challenging, and I think, but when I present some of the forecast reserves to you, I haven't done this time, but normally you have a three-year projection of what the impact will be, and I'm saying I'm comfortable for the year 1, 2, and then maybe we fall off a precipice at the end of year 3. So that's been a bit of a rolling theme for a number of years. But yeah, I think you've made some very good points there. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Catherine, did you want to come in at that point?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think the point that we're subject to the full framework exactly the same as a multi-million, hundreds of millions of pounds unitary authorities. I would like to see some sort of local authority light approach taken with us. I do think it detracts from the transparency of our ability to present our financial situation. I think the other thing, being subject to the Audit Wales regime, does come at a considerable cost, which again is proportionately more for us as a small authority compared to, Powys or one of the neighbouring large local authorities. I think this whole point about the top-ups and the fact that we started the year with a substantial deficit budget and we've ended it by putting money into our reserves highlights how potentially problematic the Audit Wales financial sustainability audit is for us. It sort of flags that we need to be taking immediate action to address our financial sustainability situation. Actually, also on the agenda for the audit committee, we have an internal audit which can take account of the fact that we get these internal top-ups, that says we're doing what we need to do within a very imperfect system to manage our finances. But the way that Audit Wales look at it, understandably for their remit, is that we are in a deficit position and we need to address it immediately. So it puts us in this sort of no man's land between an ability to have a budget which is sustainable going forward and needing to take immediate action. And then, as we'll see when I come to present the corporate priorities report, the need to invest in key capacity in order to drive the authority forward and deliver on our National Park Management Plan by adding a number of key posts which would really shift the dial. And that's very much where we find ourselves as an authority in that very conflicted position. So I hope that sort of adds a bit of clarity to what this means for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Councillor Handel, did I see a flicker of a hand at one point, or are you content? Yes. Would you like to come in?
Yeah, bear with me. I did want to ask the same question as Gareth mentioned, basically, regarding the top-up grants. Are they requested, or are they done as an outcome from Welsh Government for the situation that Park finds itself in? How do they decide when and how much to give as a top-up grant?
Well, if you take this year as an example, we were notified middle of July, which is historically very early in the financial year, because we normally get this indication towards the Christmas time to make a bid to Audit Wales, to Welsh Government rather. So yeah, it basically we submitted that 1.7 million. Quite frankly, we have no idea what's going to come back from that. All our officers in our colleagues in Welsh Government have identified that they've been told there's an underspend our projected underspends, would we like to kind of bid towards that underspend? So it's very much on an ad hoc basis to us handled. So that's how we've been living for a number of years, really.
Thank you. Gareth, would you like to come back?
Sorry, Handel, did you want to come back on that before I come in?
No, just to say that it's not a very sensible way to operate, is
No,
it?
I think we all appreciate that, don't we? Yes.
Yeah, we've had that year on year since I've been here. It's got more and more difficult around it. And just for me, it's a question for Kath regarding staffing. Obviously, we've got a number of areas that are shorter staff. The funding coming in late in the year doesn't allow us to get the staff in place to actually enact a lot of this. So for me, it's very difficult. So just around the staffing levels and shortfall, I know you kind of touched on it, but just a little bit more regarding our staffing numbers and where we want to be, but we're not able to be, in my view, that we can't actually get to those staffing levels to deliver what we want to, because the funding's coming in late in the day, which doesn't allow us, and it's short-term turnaround to spend the money. Just wondering around the staffing, if there's anything you can just comment on that, please.
Yeah, I mean, I think without going into detail, perhaps pick some of this up under the HR report, but I think we perhaps could show you a bit more about the sort of posts that we would like to be recruiting that we can't, because we don't have the assurance of funding. I think it's not just the fact that the funding's coming in late or that we're receiving in lumps, it's the fact that it's not assured going forward. So if we're taking on members of staff, we can't really take them on and then perhaps have to lose them again within a year because the funding doesn't continue. So that's our sort of real issue. But as you'll see in my corporate priorities report, for example, there's a significant gap around performance and compliance, and a number of other key areas in the organisation, as well as delivery resource. We'd love to expand things like the warden team out in the park, etc. In order to make a success of Fermi Obrò, having more officers on the ground to really engage with the community and get the best outcomes there. So it does really stymie us in terms of what we're able to deliver. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. So if there are no other questions, again, to thank you, Richard, and it seems a very appropriate point to build on what Catherine was just saying and move on to, because we're noting those two reports from Richard, and perhaps to move on to the corporate priorities, Catherine, because you've mentioned that a couple of times. This is a good time to build onto that, I think.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So just a brief introduction from me then on the corporate priorities paper, which is taken as read. So one area that is going particularly well, or two areas that are going particularly well, I would highlight getting Fermi Obrò, our sustainable farming scheme, off the ground with huge thanks to colleagues who've got that going. To Canon Aled, who has taken on the chair of that grouping, and to all the people from the community who've got involved in the local assessment panel. That got underway really well. I think the sort of objective to drive the scale and pace of natural capital developments, members have already noted the presentation that you had from Kath Howell, the lead in that area. And although that's an immensely complex area, I think we're really starting to get some progress there. So that's also, I think, going well. And I think, the work to grip the project and portfolio reporting. So, hopefully that will start to feed through to members in due course. But we are able to get a bit more capacity behind some of our key priorities there. Where there are a few more sort of concerning areas. One is the our priority and ambition to have a forum urbani. So this is our sort of cross pan-park stakeholder panel, absolutely essential for engaging with our key stakeholders, our communities, and embedding and aligning ourselves with and them with us in terms of the things that we want to see coming through from our National Park Management Plan. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to move ahead with the recruitment of the stakeholder manager post yet. Rather a complex reason why, due to a number of people exiting the team that this post would sit in, which means that we've then got to sort of think about how to coherently draw this forward. So, that one I'm slightly concerned is slipping, which is why it's red. On the positive side, Councillor Gareth as chair has been working with us as officers to pull together a sort of couple of forerunner forums, so particularly engaging with the political side of the representation in the park, so hopefully we can get some progress there. Our top priority, our top corporate priority as an organisation over the next 3 to 4 years is the commencing and developing the replacement local development plan, so our planning framework for the park. So some good progress. I mean, we've completed the public consultation. So I know some of the officers involved, Chris and Naomi, are part of this meeting. So some great progress there. But the recruitment of the additional posts to make that team complete isn't going as well. It's really essential to have the right people in post, given the multi-year nature of that priority. So that's why that one's showing a bit of slippage. And we also have sort of turnover issues in the US catchment partnership work and so on. So again, positive news there because we've got funding coming in. But again, we've got to recruit the right people to drive that work forward. So overall, I think, you know, we're sort of doing okay against most of our corporate priorities, apart from, I would say, the sort of key one of Forum Urbanae. But it is very much something that we need to double down on, is being able to get the staffing in and retain the staffing to really drive these priorities forward. So yeah, hopefully that gives you a flavour, and obviously open to any questions anyone has. Thank you.
Councillor Gareth, was that a legacy hand that just gone down? Oh, it's gone up again.
Yeah, no, it was legacy hands, but I took it down to put it back up just in case someone else wanted to come in before me. Yeah, thank you, Catherine. Thank you, officers, for all the work you're doing on this. You know, it's really positive. And Catherine's touched on it. One of the things looking through the report and look at the appendix is obviously the RAG rating. With all this work going on, how we monitor it is going to be key to ensure that we're delivering. So obviously, if we, you know, there's a gap in the service. I'm just wondering what plans or what are you looking at regarding how we monitor this, because I know the other two parks have officers in place relating to this, and it's just one of those then that we did highlight some time ago that we would look at. I'm just wondering, obviously it's all about time and place and when we're able to get that, and obviously to support you, because we can't have the chief executive writing reports and chasing around and everything else. So I'm just wondering where we are on that and what support we can give you to get that in place, so we're matching the other authorities around this monitoring process.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Gareth. I mean, we are quite light in the corporate area compared to the other two parks. There's a key post in Pembs Coast that looks at performance and compliance, which we really lack. And looking at our colleagues in Eryri, they have a director post of corporate services and a whole team there, which again, you know, would be great to have, but isn't currently affordable. One thing I should highlight, though, one of our other priorities around becoming a mission-focused organisation is to buy in some consultancy support to help us really identify what we need to do to get absolutely behind our missions, our culture and our actions all aligned. I'm pleased to say that we've appointed consultants to that piece of work now. We've briefed all staff at the all-staff briefing next week that the work is coming. And over the autumn sort of period up until mid-November, we'll be doing work with those consultants to really flush out the sort of missing pieces in becoming the kind of organisation we need to be. I hope that will give us some analysis which I can bring back to members, and I suspect there will be a couple of other sort of key areas that we'll want to prioritise in terms of adding just that bit of extra capacity that will enable us to fill the gaps on some of this and get the kind of performance monitoring system in which you know, will enable me and the executive team, but also members, to really track where we are and have a rating system which enables you to, you know, get underneath the bonnet of where we're getting to with performance management in a way that works for you.
Did you want to come back on that, Gareth?
Yeah. Thank you, Catherine, for that. And I think members, we just be mindful of our previous discussion on the previous paper regarding the budget flow coming in and our budget. You know, it's going to be difficult to deliver this. The challenge really to the Chief Executive Officers is how, as members, can we support you to get ourselves in that position that we can make these changes? Because yes, the vision of where we want, we're fully supportive of you, Catherine, but actually if we're unable financially to do it, we're not supportive of you because we can't spend the money we haven't got, or we're not sure where it's coming in and how we monitor everything else. So it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? So it's whilst both papers are positive, it does throw in the background issues that they cross over and how we can actually support one another to get to that position, because otherwise we'll be where we are now in 12 months time. So it's just that plea to you, Catherine, and officers of, as members, what can we do to support you in challenging Welsh Government to get to the position that we can make these changes.
Excellent. Any other questions, comments, members? If not, that paper is for noting. So thank you again, Catherine. That was really helpful. And no doubt we'll take forward some of this discussion at our chairs meeting later on in the week as well. Moving on, the next item on the agenda is the Local Development Plan Annual Monitoring Report. And Naomi, you're going to speak to this, I understand. And we need to vote on this, yeah?
Yes, please. Yes, thank you very much, Chair. Good morning, members. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present this to you. So yeah, I would like to present the Local Development Plan Annual Monitoring Report, otherwise known as the AMR, which covers the 11th monitoring period of the current Local Development Plan from April 2024 to March 2025. So the National Park Authority is required by the Welsh Government to submit its AMR and to publish it on the authority's website by the 31st of October every year. The National Park Authority has constructed a set of targets and indicators which act as a benchmark against which performances can be measured, and targets may relate to the achievement of certain levels of development and may set annual or at an interim period within the plan. The indicators and targets set out in the monitoring framework of the LDP also give trigger points to indicate if one of the part of the plan is not achieving its desired outcomes. And if these triggers are activated, then an annual monitoring report will consider the necessary action which is required as a result. So of the 38 indicators in this year's report, for example, 52% require continued monitoring, 16% are considered to be complete in their targets, 10% of the targets require some form of policy intervention to address failures of delivery, 13% of the targets require policy research or supplementary planning guidance or officer and member training, and 8% of the indicators have ceased monitoring. Overall, this indicates that the LDP is not reaching all of its desired targets. This shortfall underlines the pressing need for a replacement LDP that better aligns with current challenges and community needs. While planning permissions have increased this year, this growth is largely attributed to the approval of 66 extra care apartments on the former Roy Hatton site in Brecon, which are all also classified as affordable housing units, which is really good. However, the AMR continues to highlight the challenges posed by the age of the plan, rising building costs, phosphate constraints on overall housing delivery, and of course emphasise the need of a replacement LDP. On this, members will be aware that the authority commenced the LDP review back in 2018 and anticipated the adoption of a replacement one by this point in time. That process was forced to pause due to restrictions on public movement during COVID, and remained on pause due to the extent of the phosphate constraint across the national park. Since then, we have officially withdrawn our replacement local development plan and have consulted on the draft delivery agreement for preparing the new one. In the meantime, the current adopted LDP will continue to be monitored and implemented effectively, and assessments will be made as to whether further research or policy interventions or training is required. So to sum up, the publication of the AMR on the authority's website and its submission to the Welsh Government by the 31st of October is a statutory requirement for all 25 Welsh local planning authorities. Therefore, I would be grateful if you can please support our recommendation to do so. Thank you very much for your time, and I welcome any questions you have.
So members, before we move to the vote, can I take questions, comments, observations? I mean, perhaps Nobi, I could ask, you know, if the actions that are required, where action is required, do we come up with an action plan? You know, how are those sort of taken forward? Just to perhaps a bit more about that, really, because that's obviously where things are concerning.
Yeah, they internally they continually are discussed between us and DM officers and Gareth, the director, and we discuss whether particularly SBGs need to be updated, and we are monitoring certain policies within the local development plan that are continually showing sort of signs of not reaching its overall targets. So yeah,
Okay.
at the moment we're assessing this internally and scheduling some future sort of policy updates for SBGs.
Okay. Thank you, Noe. Members, any further questions before I move to a vote on this? No. So if I read out the vote is that we agree for the Local Development Plan, LDP, Annual Monitoring Report 2024-25 to be submitted to the Welsh Government and published on the National Park Authority's website by the 31st of October 2025. So Gemma will take us now through the vote, I believe.
Thank you.
Just for continuity, need a propose in a second.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I'm happy to propose.
Right, sorry. Yes. Yeah. I'll get there.
Don't worry. Yeah.
So I need a proposer and a seconder for that. Gareth proposed. Aled, can I take that as a seconder? Thank you. Right. Do I need to read it out again, Gareth, or is that okay? Can I move to Jem for the vote? Thank you. I knew the wheels were going to come off this at one point.
If that's all that goes wrong today, you're doing really well. So don't worry.
Thank you, Chair. If I run through names of committee members to vote, if you can please vote with for, against or abstain. I will start with Councillor Handel-Davis.
For.
Diolch. Next, I'll start with Canon Aled Edwards. Diolch. Dr Liz Bickerton.
For.
And Councillor Gareth Ratcliffe.
For.
That's unanimously for. Thank you, Chair.
Diolch yn fawr.
Right, moving forward, can I welcome Melusi, who is going to take us through the net zero carbon reporting for 2024-2025. Welcome, Melusi.
Thanks,
and
Jen.
over to you.
Just got a short presentation to provide an
Thank
update
you.
on this. So I'll just share my screen and hopefully that pops up for you all. So just to recap on what is included in the scope of our public sector net zero reporting to Welsh Government. So each year we provide accounts to Welsh Government which align with the wider public sector target for net zero by 2030. This reporting includes scopes 1, 2 and 3 emissions. Just as a reminder, this is BANI's operational emissions, so it does not include our territorial emissions and wider area-based work. Alongside of that, we do have reporting to CDP, which then covers our area-based emissions. So those two complement each other alongside the Welsh Government reporting. Just to provide some preliminary results from the emissions reporting exercise from this year. So first we have our supply chains through our goods and services, which are our highest emission reporting category on the national parks. That makes up about 95% of our operational emissions. This is followed by transportation, which includes everything from business travel, commuting and fleet. Third, then we have our buildings, things like our electricity and water consumption usage, and then lastly, waste emissions. Just to provide a kind of a bit of context setting in terms of what does the wider Welsh public sector look like in the makeup of national parks within the operational emissions. So the largest you'll be able to see are emissions from local authorities and NHS Welsh organisations, as you'd be able to expect. And national parks make up a total of less than kind of 1% of the emissions. When we kind of compare, I guess, apples with apples, then in terms of the makeup of national park authorities within those emissions, this kind of graph shows you emissions from 2020, the baseline reporting year to Welsh Government, all the way through to 2024 of the 3 national parks who report to Welsh Government in Wales. You'll be able to see that since kind of 2023 to 2024, emissions rose from 18% in that period, and since 2020, the baseline, we've seen emissions rise by 87% since that initial baseline exercise. That's just a quick run through of the emissions reporting for this year and kind of a bit of context for the last 5 years emissions reporting, and those accounts will be approved by the Welsh Government Energy Service later this year. Happy to take any questions which comes from that as well. But yeah, just a quick outline of that.
Thank you, Lucy. Questions, members? I guess the key thing is, you know, are we moving in the right direction? Some of those figures, you know, the rise is quite shocking in some respects, but I think there's a discussion elsewhere perhaps about the so what and what we are doing about it, isn't it really? So perhaps not for this committee, but that's the key point. So this is just for noting, but I think we should acknowledge that we need to take a wider, deeper discussion elsewhere, perhaps, about our actions against this. So thank you, Lucy. Any other questions from members? No? Okay. In which case, we'll note that. The next item on the agenda is the annual HR report. I'm not sure. Can I see Jessica on screen at the moment? She's just logging in, I understand. She knows she was here earlier. Bear with us. Hello, Jess.
Morning,
Hello.
everybody.
There we go. Over to you.
Fab. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone, for having me this morning. So obviously I've all read the cover paper that came along with the papers for this committee. So the authority is currently reviewing and redrafting our workforce plan, given the financial pressures that we're currently facing and some other problems that we're having within our capacity and structure of the organisation. So the last HR annual report that came to a committee was actually in 2021, and our organisational circumstances have significantly changed. So while I'm not providing you with the full report that used to come back from prior to 2021, I am going to give you some data sets that I think that might just be of use for you to have going forwards. So for the last 4 years, our staff number has fluctuated roughly between 105 and 120 members of staff, with our FTE averaging at around 91.2, both of those numbers being substantially lower compared to Pembrokeshire Coast National Park and Eryri National Park, which is quite shocking when you look at the numbers across the 3 of us, especially then when you go wider to our national park family across the UK. So the cost of this workforce at the moment for 24 to 25 was 4.9 million, which we know is going to rise to at least 5.1 million this year due to the NJC pay award, which was 3.2%, which was awarded back in around August time. So moving forwards there, I know some people, Catherine and Richard have both mentioned that we've had some recruitment issues going throughout the last year and few years before that. We've had some capacity, lack of capacity in the HR team to push some really key recruitment through and to get things moving quicker. A lot of this has been done due to some stunted progress through processes such as job evaluations, etc., which have really made the gaps much larger than we expected in capacity for the workforce. Though through all of this, for 24-25, we did actually still have 13 external recruitment adverts and 3 internal adverts, while the process has been longer than we expected. All of those posts were successfully recruited into, so that's some good news at least. So that's pretty much the majority of the data that I have for yourselves, and I appreciate that it isn't a lot to go off and it's not the full report that previous committees have had. This has been due to a lack of our access to a HR system or to our payroll system that we use through Cardiff Council. We have really limited access to that system, which doesn't help us get any of the data that we need and require for a substantial HR report. But just to add on to that, I can confirm that we are actually looking at a HR system. We're really hopeful that maybe we can tie it in now with a consultancy piece of work as well that's ongoing, and hopefully get that up and running for the new year, which will mean that going forwards, any annual report that does come to committee will have some substantial data that we can rely on and access quite easily. Also, as on the cover paper, Audit Wales are going to be looking at our workforce strategy as the next audit of the authority. So with this in mind and the current financial situation that we find ourselves in, I'm really asking committee today to help come up with a template for this HR annual report going forwards, just to kind of understand, what metrics and data would best support the committee in any future decisions that they may need to make. So I suppose that's the biggest ask from yourselves today. Thank you.
Thank you, Jess. Councillor Gareth.
Thank you, Jess. Yeah, that's really good and really pleased to hear this is coming forward. I know obviously the issues relating to access to the HR through our service with Cardiff Council. I think going forward is going to be really important that we actually do match apples with apples and not apples with pears. Over years, I've seen a number of council reports where I sit with Powys where there's slight tweaks, and then when you're looking to try and get trends and matching, you can't match them. So I think it's really important that we engage at this early point to get the metrics that we want to go forward, like you've highlighted. So thank you for that, and that forward thinking is really, really positive. So I just encourage officers and members to get involved in that, so when the reports do come back, we can start looking at trends over a number of years with actual real life data, not slight data that skews those things. So I think it is really, really important. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Gareth. Any other comments from members? So just to clarify, Jess, that what we're talking about here is what your ask is that template, and perhaps we'll take that forward and through the Chairs Committee initially and see whether there's a need for some subgroup if that's not appropriate. But that's the action really from this piece. Is that clear? Is that what you're asking for?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, lovely. Is that legacy hand, Gareth? Right, lovely. Excellent. Okay, so moving on, I have not been notified of any urgent business, so I think that concludes the business of this morning's committee meeting. Thank you all for your attendance, and